The definition of a circle, the mathematical definition, it is the set of all points, a specific distance from a specific point. We call the distance the radius, and we call the point in the middle of the circle the center, and we designate it by the letters, typically HK, instead of XY. One reason they're not using X and Y is because the center point is not actually on the circle, and therefore it is not going to satisfy the equation for the circle. But you can really, there's no way to define the circle without the center. So even though it's not on the circle, it's probably the most important point on the circle. In a center radius form for a circle, they will call the equation x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. This is based on the distance formula, where the distance of between 2 points is the distance between their x values squared plus the distance between their y values squared. Add those together, take the square root of the whole thing. And that, in turn, is based on the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. For the distance formula, they solve for c and take the square root of both sides. But in the circle formula, they prefer to go ahead and leave it with everything squared. So this is essentially based on the distance formula, where this is the point xy, this is the point hk, and the distance between here and here would be x minus h, and the distance between here and here for this side would be y minus k. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. That's where the formula comes from. Now suppose the center of a circle was the point 5, -3, and the radius, the distance from the center to the outside of the circle, was 4. Then the equation for this circle is nothing but x minus 5, because this is h and this is k. So x minus 5 squared plus y minus -3 would become y plus 3 squared equals the radius r squared. So it's 16. That's all you have to do. Now sometimes they will take this and multiply it out. Let's say we had a circle whose equation was x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 25. Now we can easily tell from this that the center of the circle is at -2, +3. And the radius is 5. because this is r squared. But what they call the general form is where you take everything, you multiply it all out, and you set it equal to 0. Now, when you square a binomial like this, keep in mind that you have to FOIL it out. So rather than that, let me write this as x minus 2, or x plus 2 times x plus 2 plus y minus 3 times y minus 3 equals 25. This is going to be x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4 plus y squared minus 3y plus 9. And I can go ahead and bring this over by subtracting 25. That'll make this 0. So combining like terms, I get x squared plus y squared. The x terms add up to a 4x. The y terms add up to negative 6y. And 4 plus 9 minus 25 would be a negative 25, and a positive 13 would be a negative 12. So minus 12 equals 0. This is what they would call the general form. On the other hand, what if they give us the general form and we need to know what the center and radius of the circle is? Okay, that becomes a lot trickier. Let's take this same problem. We already know what the answer is, but let's see if we can work backwards. If you have to work backwards, let's put the x squared and the 4x together and leave a space. And the y squared and the 6y together and leave a space. And let's move the 12 back over to the other side. So it's going to become a positive 12. There's a process called completing the square. This is based on knowing that squaring a binomial will give us the square of the first term and the square of the second term, and a middle term that consists of the product of the two of them doubled. 2 times ax. When you look up here, you'll see that the two middle terms both consisted of x times 2, which doubles to 4x. Here, the middle terms both consisted of y times a negative 3, which doubled gives you a negative 6y. So if I multiply these and double it, that would be a times x doubled would be 2ax. So to find the third term, usually we're worried about finding the middle term, but to find the third term, that means that here the 4 is taking the place of 2a. So if 4 is equal to 2a, then a would have to be 2. But remember, this isn't going to be a, this is going to be a squared. So half of this squared, half of that is 2, 2 squared is 4, but if I add 4 to this, I have to add 4 to this. Half of this squared would be negative 3. Negative 3 squared is a positive 9. So I'm taking the negative 6, dividing it by 2, and squaring that. Here I was taking the positive 4, dividing it by 2, and squaring that. So half of this is 2, 2 squared is 4, half of this is -3, -3 squared is 9. And I can't forget to put the 9 over here. Now this will factor, this factors as the square root of this sign, and the square root of this. This is guaranteed to factor this way because we just arranged to have all three of these terms. So this is going to factor as the square root of this, the sign from the middle, and the square root of that, quantity squared. This is going to factor as the square root of this, the sign from the middle, and the square root of that, quantity squared. And this simply adds up to 12, 16, and 9 is 25. And you notice that we're right back here where we started. So that's how you would go from general form to the circle radius form. To get from circle radius form to general form, all you do is FOIL everything out and then set it equal to 0.